What does developing psychic skills actually mean? Like, why would we do it? What's the importance of it? And why is this in an intuition podcast? Well, there's lots of different reasons why we would connect into our psychic senses or our clair senses. And we do this so that we can open up and develop ourselves in ways beyond which we could never imagine our lives going otherwise. So tune in and listen because this is going to be a good one. You're listening to the Intuitive Mastery podcast. Hi, I'm kateconnolly, and with over 15 years of intuitive healing and teaching experience, I'm here to help you celebrate intuition and value authenticity to create a world where you have the freedom to live your best life. This podcast is here to teach you how to apply the principles of spirituality, healing, and mindset to have true and lasting joy, all from the inside out. This is the Intuitive Mastery podcast. Hi, everybody, and welcome. Today, I want to talk to you about all of the different psychic abilities and what it means and why they're even important. So, this is an intuitive podcast. This is what we're learning to do as a general rule. And I think we can't really necessarily dive deeply into intuition without kind of at least mentioning and going deeply into the spiritual aspect. My work pretty much always dives into the spiritual realm of things. So, we're just going to have a bit of a dive into what that actually looks like and what that means. So, for those of you who are new to my podcast or who want to check out more, I have an amazing intuitive mastery school with literally hundreds of classes and meditations for you to connect into your own intuition. There's loads on how to learn about different aspects of yourself, learn loads on healing. There's spiritual stuff in there. There's chakra sequences and sequences on the auric field. We're currently doing one on relationships, and we're doing a deep dive into how intuitively show up in relationships, how to deeply communicate with your partner with love, how to work through your own triggers and problems that will inevitably and always show up in relationships. So there's loads and loads and loads of content. It's only $10 US a week, so it's super affordable as well. And you just get access to my online community and all of the information that comes with it, which is really exciting. I've also got a book called The Intuitive Heart Revolution and a workbook that accompanies it. So all of my information is in the bio below. And if you would like to learn more, please click and join us. So, psychic knowledge, psychic gifts, psychic awareness. How is that in any way relevant to intuition? Well, our intuition is really that kind of deep voice inside of us. It is our inner knowing. It is our connection to our highest good, to our highest path. And also, when we really tune into it, we get this intimate knowledge of exactly what it is that we love and want in life. And I think that's a really beautiful thing to connect into. And what I find really fascinating is that we have this, I don't even know what you'd call it, maybe an expectation that there is then no connection into other energies or other realms. But what I want to explain and what I've experienced is that anyone who plays with the quantum field, which is basically this field of potentiality, if we were to look at this concept that we're all energy and that we are all potential, if we give ourselves the skills and the knowledge and the opportunity to calm our minds enough so that we're connecting into our intuition, so often we're also connecting into the quantum field. Now, the quantum field is this incredible place that allows us to go into different elements of our lives and change them. So, any master manifester will tell you the only way to manifest properly is to get into the quantum field, But what does that mean? And when you're there, what happens? Okay, so the quantum field is also equivalent to what Jose Silva might call the 0 point, or that point of single focus. When Joe Dispenza talks about it, he talks about going into that quantum field and allowing that potential to unfold. Lots of different manifestors talk about it just calming the mind and going into that place of stillness. But there's lots of different things that kind of unfold here. You usually have a brainwave change as well. So going into that quantum field usually means that your brainwaves have changed from the normal beta mode, which is go, 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 do, 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 and it's slowing down into an alpha or even a theta wavelength, which means that everything is slowing down in the brain. There's less chaos in there, and you can actually start to focus on one thing at a time, which is really exciting. The focus of most meditation practices are to get into that space so you can understand that feeling of peace. When you're there, you usually feel like you're one with the universe. You usually feel a sense of calm and just connection to yourself and to the things around you. And sometimes you just feel so blissed out, you go to sleep. So, speaking of sleep, we're usually in this state, this alpha theta state, between sleep and awake. So we'll go into it on the way to sleep and we'll come out of it when we wake up. So a lot of people enjoy and like to meditate before they go to bed and after they wake up because their brain waves are already pretty close to those states, which is really exciting. So if you have these moments that happen naturally and you can create them through meditation, what actually happens is that you can start to go into this concept of creation. So, this creation energy is understanding that when you get into that quantum field, you hit this point of all things possible. And it becomes then a co creation when you are manifesting between you and the universe. So, when you hit that quantum field, for a lot of people, that is actually the end goal. It's like, oh my goodness, I hit a state of peace in my mind. I hit a state of peace in my body. That's amazing, right? And it is, it's amazing. And when you get there, what then? Do you just stay there? Do you just stay in that state and then you come out and you live your life? Well, I mean, yes, you can. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's a really calming, healing thing to do, because if you do nothing but slow your brain waves for 10 to 15 minutes a day, what an incredible gift that is to your nervous system, to your immune system, to your health, to your ability to understand yourself. It gives you a lot of calm and peace. But also, what happens is that when you go into that state, you're also hitting the state of potentiality. So, if you want to learn how to manifest properly, if you want to learn how to create a different way of being, this is where you do it from. Okay, so this is where your intuition can just burst forth with loads of information on how to actually step into that which you want to create. So when we're in that state, we can then be open to the quantum field. And if you want to move it into this concept of spirituality, you're also then connecting into your clair senses, right? So anybody who's done any kind of work into connecting to their psychic self or to their spiritual self or to different elements of knowing and understanding will have an awareness of this. But when we're talking about clair senses, we're talking about senses that go beyond the five, taste, touch, smell, hearing, and I can never remember the fifth, but the five senses, the five senses that sit in the Newtonian world of everything that exists, we can see, touch, taste, smell. And I think, well, I know that our senses go well and truly beyond that. And when we can get into that quantum field, we open up to the potentiality of all of those things becoming awakened and trained into us being able to see well and truly beyond the physical. So when we get into that quantum state, our brain waves slow down. We connect into our intuition much more easily. but then we can also tap into our clair senses. When we tap into our clair senses, we also then have the opportunity to connect into our spiritual guides, into our angels, into our higher self, into a whole bunch of other elements. So we might do that in a different podcast, but this particular one is talking about allowing ourselves to get into that state and then awakening different skills that we might want to develop. Now, everybody on the planet has this ability. It is not a special ability assigned only to healers. Absolutely not. Healers might have an easier introduction to it, but some of the most incredible intuitive healers or psychic healers and the ones that didn't really necessarily get it super quickly the first time and have had to work on developing that sense. And as you work more and more on developing that sense, like any muscle, any kind of conditioning in the body, you're going to get better and better and better at it. So when we allow ourselves to open up into the clair senses, we have a few main ones, but the way that they kind of manifest for each person is also really differently. So I remember my meditation teacher she's a mentor of mine, said we have something like 366 different psychic senses, and that they're all kind of based off of a few different categories. Okay, so the first one is what we would call clairsentience. Clairsentience is the gift of feeling. So a lot of people have this without necessarily understanding that they do, but clairsentience is this concept of feeling something that's a bit different or feeling into yourself or to other people and getting an understanding about what's going on. So for example, you might be able to walk into a room and feel that there's grief there. That's a clairsentient skill, right? You might be able to speak to someone or look at someone and not necessarily through their words or their actions, but you can feel that they're angry, for example. And that is a clairsentient skill. It's a feeling skill. You're not going to necessarily get that from what they're saying or their body language or anything else, but it'll radiate off them because how we think and feel and vibrate becomes our vibrational field. It becomes our attractor field. And people can feel into that and therefore understand where you're at if they choose to. Okay, so it's a really amazing skill to have. Clairsentience is about feeling. Okay, so the next one is called clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is seeing, all right? So seeing not through our eyes, but through our third eye. So our third eye sits between our brow. It is the sixth chakra or the center of the sixth chakra, which is right in between the forehead, in the middle. And seeing with the third eye is the ability to see scenes and things and experiences that our normal eyes can't see. So some people can check into their clairvoyance through just squinting their eyes a little bit. Some people see it better by closing their eyes completely. Some people can still see things with their eyes open, but it's not like you're necessarily seeing the scene in front of you. It's not like you're necessarily seeing that plant just like it is, although some people get it that clearly. But it is seeing something that isn't necessarily in that physical 3D world. So you might see the vision of somebody. You might see a scene unfold. You might be able to see something that is pertaining to a person or an event or a situation. And it's probably not of this time and place. So it's not necessarily something that is unfolding in front of you or even at the same time. It could be an experience of someone in their earlier life. It could be an experience of someone in their future. It could be an experience of someone on another planet. But essentially, that clairvoyance is the seeing ability. So when people go to see a clairvoyant, they're usually trying to get some understanding of their future, and that person and their skills can often be visual. So it's the visual or the seeing ability, clairvoyance, where you get that information. And lots and lots and lots of people are clairvoyant. And it's not necessarily something that they understand or recognize, but it's a really incredible skill to have. Clairvoyance is seeing. Okay, there's another one called claircognizance. Claircognizance is this concept of knowing. There's this just concept of knowing something immediately. So an example might be you just have this foreboding feeling and you know that something's going to happen to person X over there and it's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know how, but you just know it. It's just this instant knowing that comes through, and you don't know where it's come from, you don't know why, and there's no explanation and there's no understanding about how it's come about. But the next day when something happens to that person, you have this, oh my goodness, I knew something was going to happen. I just knew it. Okay. So that claircognizant is about knowing. And it's almost like this instantaneous knowing that comes through. You're not feeling it through your emotions. You're not seeing it through your eyes. There's just a knowing in there that this is the truth and this is how it is for this person or this situation or this event or even yourself. So claircognizance is this beautiful, amazing skill of knowing things. And for me, it's probably one of the most fascinating ones, because with the other senses, you can at least see or feel or kind of go into the experiences of the other to understand what's going on. But the knowing is just almost like this instantaneous download of, but that's how it is. And they go, yeah. So claircognizance is this really cool knowing, this knowing around things. Okay, and the last one, and like I said, it's grouped. So there's 366 of these, and how they actually unfold for each person is really, really different, but it's also super exciting, is clairaudience. Now, clairaudience, this is something that I don't possess really at all, and I very deliberately asked for this not to be made better for myself. Clairaudience is this concept of hearing. So we hear stuff, and the hearing is probably one of the most tangible clair senses, because you can't deny hearing things, right? But sometimes people might get like a ringing in the ears, and that's this clairaudience, your guides trying to come in and teach you or tell you something. Other people hear actual voices. Other people might hear songs, or they might hear words of recognition that come through that let them know a particular, message or information or knowing for them. So clairaudience is the concept of knowing through sound, right? If you look at famous people with clairaudience, you look at people like the medical medium, and he's got someone constantly talking in his ears. So the only downside, in my opinion, of clairaudience is this feeling and this concept that you might be feeling like you're a little bit crazy at times, having these weird sounds in your ears, especially if you can't turn them off, can be incredibly distracting and also a little bit scary at times. So I do believe, and I could be wrong if a medical medium listens to this, because he would know way more than me. I do know that for some people, if they say, I don't want to hear anything right now, just like turn the sound off, it will happen. But I think for some clairaudient, I'm going to call them psychics, but not necessarily, or you could call them mediums as well, obviously. The sound sometimes doesn't turn off. So it's a fairly constant annoyance in the ears, and that can be, incredibly distracting, and also a little bit, you know, pressing on the sanity, as it were, if it's a constant thing. Okay, so that's the main kind of 4 categories. There are others probably, and there's many, many derivations of those, so that everybody has it a little bit differently. When I'm connecting with someone, I'll probably get a combination of at least the first 3, pretty much never the 4th, but again, I don't call that in. But when you give yourself the gift of going down into that quantum field, or when you give yourself the opportunity to listen to your intuition, you will start developing these things naturally. right? So especially if you go into that quantum field and you start doing things with it, like how do I manifest $1 million? How do I get rid of this health issue? How do I call in the love of my life? How do I fix this issue? What am I supposed to do today? Guides, help me with this. What you're doing with those questions and what you're creating in that quantum field is this concept of a new reality. And when you're asking and calling in a new reality, what you're also finding is that you're going to get immediate feedback as well. And the immediate feedback is really, really a very special thing. And that is the clair senses being developed. And as your clair senses develop, as you start receiving information and knowing, then your intuition deepens, your spirituality deepens, the creation of the life of your dreams deepens, and you have this incredible skill set that emerges into a place of taking you places that you would never have dreamed of beforehand, which is just the most beautiful thing ever. So it's not weird. It's not scary. It's very exciting. It's very, I feel like it's one of those things that, without it, we could live incredibly ordinary, very kind of dull lives. And with it, everything becomes possible, which is just a most beautiful thing. So if you're open for it, if you're ready, start learning how to get down into that quantum field. I am running workshops on how to do this. I've got parts in my Intuitive Mastery School teaching how to do this. There's lots of hacks out there on how to get there quickly, how to do it easily, and also what to do once you're there. And I will start teaching this in a lot more of my workshops, but also I do have that information and work through it in my Intuitive Mastery School. So without further ado, I'm going to sign off, but just remember, all things are possible. We need to start listening. Once we get into that quantum field, we start this kind of dialogue with our guides and our higher self and our angels and all of our spiritual team of the light, so that we start to co-create what our heart's desire actually is. And it's not a pushing, it's not making things happen regardless. It's allowing ourselves to dream big, get feedback from our guides, get really clear on our own soul path, like what our destiny is, which is different for everybody, and following it no matter what, based on the information and the advice that you get from your guides as you go. And you can only do that really easily once you can get into that quantum field and you start developing your clair senses. Okay, thank you for tuning in. So great to be here, and I will see you next time.